Smaller.
Mate, I was so excited, and it isn't exactly what I thought.
You've never had an intense relationship before. This is all uncharted territory.
No wonder.
When I was a kid, I was fastidious about my attire. I had a very particular way of dressing, which was completely at odds with my school's dress code.
What is their story? Well, the word Bedouin is a derivative of the Arabic word for nomad. They're an ethnic group known for roaming the deserts of the Middle East and North Africa, often with...
Her court pleadings are heartbreaking. One of her pleadings went like this. I am a single mom of 3, and my bank account was wiped clean
by the plaintiff. I cannot take care of my kids when they snatch all of my money out of my account.
Where it would be, you're getting so much data. So, you know, if you get one thread of intel, it could be an anomaly, it could be fabricated, it could be false, it could be some overheard conversation. It might not be validated.
In that program, I teach you exactly how to build your worth, how to captivate men on that deeper level, how to...
Their children. We see new videos on YouTube explaining that climate change is a hoax. And
there is that, that these sort of very prosaic elements of daily life, community life, are actually what's interesting to record for the future.
There is a vicious cycle that has set in. The American economy today is almost twice as large as it was in 1980, but the median wage has gone nowhere. In fact, if anything, most Americans' wages adjusted for inflation have declined. So where did...
What I went through didn't exasperate the trauma anymore, which was a positive thing. The trust was very open.
Smaller and more serene than neighboring Yellowstone, Grand Teton's winding rivers, mirror-like lakes, and jagged granite peaks have long been a magnet for painters and photographers. And
that time. But that was nothing compared to smallpox, which killed 30% of the people who got it, and was also more contagious. That virus terrorized humanity for thousands of years.
It might be an inconvenient truth. Like, don't answer it off the cuff. Like, don't answer it really quickly. Like, try to think.
Their flesh. Let's try something new. I cannot predict everything that's going to happen, but we'll improvise. We'll be on our toes, I think.
I'd like to give my sincerest apologies for the media circus that my disappearance caused. Please know that it was never my intention, and that I plan to make amends and repay every taxpayer dollar spent trying to ascertain my whereabouts.
Every year.
Valiant was very good at creating an illusion that they were growing. And they tried to manipulate the numbers in a way that may have been legal, but was certainly giving investors the wrong impression.
And riders and elite athletes, they go into this zone where they experience this transient hypofrontality, this temporary moment where the ego dissolves. You get sort of
I just want to have the opportunity to talk to people, to dispel the myths, to define people's potential, to eradicate all the negative aspects that
drive servicer decision making. It's a cogent explanation of a complex set of relationships that are key to better understanding and negotiating the intricacies of REO acquisition.
The Allies, seen for so long to be fighting evil, look to have perpetrated an atrocity.
It's a totally different situation in the Second World War.
Actually, you vote with your clicks. If you click on clickbait, you're creating a financial incentive that perpetuates this existing system.
You make sure that you build with vacuum energy. Hawking and Mladenov's equivocal use of terms is painfully evident in an interview that they did with Larry King on his program, Larry King Live. And here's how...
Talk about, so you might say, for example, stop beating around the bush. Tell me, do you want to date me or not? Someone is being too indirect about this. We often use this with words like, don't beat around the bush. Stop beating around the bush.
Most of his followers were women.
and they were absolutely captivated by his very straightforward personality, his hypnotic powers, his ability to understand them, to listen to them, to caress.
Armies. It takes his army over 20 days to defeat the Poles. Polish resistance has given Hitler's armed forces a major battering, and they have lost a substantial number of their armored vehicles.
To protect the engines. Any engine must be protected, so all the defeat devices we know in diesel cars are allowed. That's the interpretation of the German government, and it is absurd.
It seems...
Enough. I'll try to be more succinct. You held a certain fascination when you were beautiful, delicate, and untouched. But now you're like one of the Arabians my father used to own.
Toxic water. Global security can no longer remain at odds with protecting our planet or our collective health. Our survival depends on it.
It was like his body just knew what to do, you know? Like some reflex that lay dormant until called upon. Like Van Damme meets Bruce Lee, but more lethal.
She's exaggerating a little bit.
No,
Our universities are extraordinary. And I would even say that they are a hallmark of our civilization. They reflect our democratic principles. They reflect our wealth.
Matched it for herself.
Exactly. You know, my own father didn't come to our wedding because he didn't approve of her pedigree. I didn't choose her because of where she came from. Just like she did.
Donna, just the person I was about to come see.
Oh, is that a fact?
You seem perturbed.
I am. Because
divest and sanction. Created by Palestinian academics, it calls on individuals, on companies, on colleges, churches, cities, and even countries to starve Israel economically and isolate it socially. The ostensible reason for this is Israel's alleged mistreatment of Palestinians living in the areas of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank.
Now, markmanson.net. And on that, he writes these incredibly lucid, clear prose articles about how to live a rich and fulfilling life.
Sowell means that English is about 200 years older than German. But as I hope I've been able to demonstrate, these are completely arbitrary labels which we use only for convenience. In reality, it is not possible to say exactly when a language began. Except
people. So educate yourself on how to fact check and avoid plagiarism and copyright infringement. And if you
I remember crying at the chapel, and the art teacher at the school, a guy named Bob Fulgham, was incredibly eloquent. And so I remember being consoled by him in front of the chapel.
What'd you get on your SATs?
Oh, 1590. Yeah, it was an ambiguous question. I don't know. Don't really like to talk about it.
Russian RPGs just to accommodate his girth.
I would have thought he'd be more cautious about where he chooses to hang out.
Well, BB's an indulgent man. He loves to be surrounded with what he loves the most.
From experience, femininity is treated as a second-class citizen, and feminine people are treated as indulgent and lazy and irresponsible.
Standards. Let's take you to this whimsical writing world called 826 Valencia.
Business needs change. Market demographics change. What they said 3 months ago may not be still true. Not because they're whimsical, but because the market has changed.
I never crossed over. I never thanked you for that.
Nor should you. Your circumspection afforded me the opportunity to take care of Audrey's killer myself. It was a win-win.
I would advise all of you to be a little more circumspect about your selfies and what you take pictures of.
And the golf club you used on the car, where did you get it?
I don't remember.
You an avid golfer?
No.
Set aside.
This is something that Churchill and Roosevelt were very, very keen to provide because it was well within their capabilities as well as visually impressive.
Well, you know,
I sometimes complain. I say, don't keep the things. You are a hoarder. You keep things for a long time. Get rid of them, But
from experience, femininity is treated as a second-class citizen, and feminine people are treated as indulgent and lazy and irresponsible.
Divest and sanction. Created by Palestinian academics, it calls on individuals, on companies, on colleges, churches, cities, and even countries to starve Israel economically and isolate it socially. The ostensible reason for this is Israel's alleged mistreatment of Palestinians living in the areas of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank.